Hello, everybody, and welcome to Roll20 Presents Microscope, where we're going to, instead of playing role-playing games, examine very small things. That's what we're doing. It's a science show today. Today is a new, exciting science show about science. We've all become scientists. Dave, what kind of scientist are you? What science did you study?
Paleontology, but only for robots.
Right. Okay. Robo-paleontology. Nice.
Yep.
That's good.
Makes sense.
That's good. That's good. Blue Jay, what kind of scientist are you?
I am a research physicist.
Ooh, that's exciting.
When I was a kid, my science teacher had a little graph on his wall that said the maths you needed to take for different science careers, and research physicists had the most maths checked, and so I wanted to be that. Because I liked math once upon a time.
Nice, nice. I have never liked math personally, ever.
Yeah.
Andrew, what kind of scientist would you like to be today?
I'm a scientist that studies which food is the most delicious.
Oh, a food scientist.
Yeah. And so I'm just working my way through all the foods until I know which one is the tastiest.
Gastrologist.
I think it's just there's probably an actual science.
I'm a
of that.
gastronomer.
Yeah. Gastronomer, exactly.
You search out hidden foods in the galaxy.
It's the branch of science created by gastronomy. So far, of all of the foods, what is the most delicious so far, food scientist?
Peanut butter banana toast is winning out thus far.
Are you just saying that because it's the food you have in front of you?
Probably.
That's right. If you can't,
I can neither confirm nor deny
that's right.
that is the food I have. Oh.
If you can't eat the food you want, love the food you're with, I guess.
I'm a big fan of lasagna.
Yeah. So is Garfield.
Yeah, well, me and that cat are very similar. We also hate
I was
Mondays.
gonna say, how do you feel about Odie?
The worst.
Man, Garfield, haven't thought about
Blue
that.
Jay also has an incredibly deep voice.
Right. Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Yeah.
I mean, surprisingly deep. That's as far as I can go.
I like the face
can't
that you made to
really-
go along with that.
I gotta like.
Whoa.
Which...
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's your friends, the Roll20 Presents. We're minus Elf. We're elfless today because it's Christmas and elves are very busy around Christmas time. So
How long have you been saving that one up for?
It just came to me.
Well, she had that big deadline.
Yeah, and now they're having the wrap party or the unwrap party, I guess. Out in anyway, so Elf is doing travel family stuff. And so instead of trying to hammer out an episode of The Burning Wheel, we decided instead to play a game that requires no game master, or perhaps has 4 game masters, depending on how you look at it. We're going to be playing Microscope today. We're going to play a little bit of Microscope. Microscope is a game that has been out for like some time. When did Microscope come out? 2012, 11.
I had the website open just a second ago.
And I played
Since
2011. Yeah, 2011. It's a game by Ben Robbins. I played the heck out of this game when it first came out. It was sort of the go-to, like, you want to play a role-playing game, but nobody has anything prepped, and you just want to like throw down a few hours to like play something out. And that was the thing. And so I've played a fair bit of this, but I have not played it in years. I haven't played Microscope in probably two or 3 years. Yeah, I was gonna say, Andrew, you've played it before. Dave, have you played Microscope?
I think I want to say I've played it once, but I don't remember what happened in it. So maybe.
Blue Jay, you've played before, right?
Nope, not a once.
All
Never
right.
read it.
There we
Never
go.
played
Exciting.
it.
So I'll be facilitating the game, which is to say I'll read through the rule book as we go, but when we actually play, we'll all have the same role within the game. I remember, yeah, I've played a fair bit of Microscope, and like Dave, I can't really remember the last game that I played. I think I played at Gen Con in 2013, and it was like 3 a.m, and Yeah, I definitely don't remember, but there was space. There was some space stuff in it. So basically, what I think a lot of people come to Microscope from, and I see it getting suggested as a as a warm up game or as a setting builder for another role playing game. So often people will say, "Oh, you're going to play Burning Wheel. You're going to play." Dungeon World, you're going to play the Sprawl, you know, you're going to play a game that doesn't necessarily have a deep level of world building. Microscope can help you with that. It's also just really fun to play on its own because it's a variable amount. You can play it for as many sessions as you want, or you can just play, you know, 2 hours. You can just play a couple of scenes. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a timeline. I'm gonna read Ben's little introduction to Microscope so we can all kind of get on board. And then because of the way the game is laid out and how the game works, we will both learn it and play it at the same time. And then you will also at home you'll get to check it out too. Microscope Microscope works differently than some other role-playing games you might have played. So let's abandon some preconceptions. Gather up some preconceptions. We're gonna abandon them. So you won't have your own character, which is why all the overlay stuff just has our regular type names on it. You will not play the game in chronological order. You may know all about the future, but be surprised by the past. You will build the story from the outside in. You'll decide the big picture, the grand scheme of history, and then burrow down and carve out the details. It's fractal gaming. So think big. You have a massive chunk of history to play around in. So what we're gonna do in Microscope, like so many small press tabletop role-playing games, the IRL version, the AFK version of the game, uses index cards, which if you're from Europe, may not be a thing you're familiar with. So index cards...
Wait, they don't have index cards in Europe?
Some parts of Europe do not have index cards. You cannot buy them. What's that, Dave?
They're called flashcards.
Right. Some places do not have them. When I went to Italy, and this may have changed since like 2013, but when I went to Italy, a bunch of people at the con that I was going to were like, please bring us index cards. Just buy a bunch of index cards and bring them. They're little 3x5 like cardboard cards. Sometimes they're lined on one side and blank on the other. And you write things on them. And if you're playing indie tabletop role-playing games, they're used for, a little paper card, size of your cell phone. Yeah, exactly.
No, they're a thing. They're just called different things. I can't believe that there are countries that don't have them. Like, did they just not invent them?
I think they may have them, but in the wrong size. They may be like only available in like little. Some of them are 3x5. Some of them are 4x6.
I've seen ones as big as 5x7 for people who are trying to smush more notes on before the test. Yeah,
5x7. Yep, exactly. So in our little game, I've set up a kind of virtual tabletop, if you will, to simulate that. So I've got some blank index cards over here that we're going to use. Don't like modify these ones. We're all GMs in this. Don't modify these ones, but copy and paste them. So I've got a horizontal one and a vertical one. I've got these little dots, which we'll explain in a second, and then I've got some default card text that we can use. So we'll talk about how these arrange on the board, and I've got the board laid out long and relatively narrow. But if we need more space, I can build it out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by brainstorming a simple overview of the history we would like to play and explore. So if you were looking in a history book, this would be the one line that summarizes what happens but leaves out all the details. It should be no more than a single sentence. Part of this conversation will be determining like the general kind of genre that we want to look at. But we're going to pick something big to give us lots of time and space. And if the idea seems too simple or uninteresting, we don't have to worry about it. That's normal. It's supposed to be kind of broad and a little bit dull. Because we're going to figure out why it's interesting. So the examples in this one are an ancient empire rises and falls, cavemen at the dawn of time found the first civilization, mankind leaves the sick earth behind and spreads out to the stars. So we're going to figure out our story, our history here, and what kind of game that we want to play. So what's everybody feeling? What kind of game do we want to do?
Weren't you saying something about space shit?
I mean, the role playing, the false binary of role playing is that everything is either fantasy or sci-fi. So we could start there. But yeah, I mean, we've been playing a lot of fantasy, right? We've been playing D&D and Burning Wheel. So I'm leaning more towards like a sci-fi.
What
game.
if we did a cyberpunk thing?
Yeah, I could go for some dystopian near future stuff.
No, I want to go far future cyberpunk, like cyberpunk, cyberpunk. Yeah, two cybers to differentiate northeast and northeast to different directions. It's like fun.
Right, so it's like you're creating a more granular version of cyberpunk. We have punk cyberpunk, cyberpunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of here.
No.
Well, okay, so I think we can all agree on sci-fi at least. We've started that's some kind of of
the two things that role playing can be, that's the one.
That's the one we're gonna go with. Okay. Now, okay, so we can talk about this. So, Andrew, you suggested like cyberpunk. What about that? Is it the dystopian stuff? Is it the like 80s vision of the future? Is it like what's vibing for you there? Because I want to see kind of like how sci-fi we want to get with this.
I recently watched Blade Runner 2049 and want to do some cool, like the dystopian element, the as applies to both like the world itself as well as like cultural stuff and society.
Okay.
And like cool future shit that we can.
What?
I'm sorry.
Oh well, now Blue Jay, Dave, and Andrew have all switched places. All right, y'all talk about this. I'm gonna fix the thing that Andrew just ruined.
I just ruined it. I'm sorry.
Damn it,
It's okay.
Andrew.
It's not your fault. Well, it is, but I don't care. I still love you.
It's not your fault, but it is your fault.
It is your fault. You're a flawed human being, but I still love you. Anyway, continue. Carry on with your discussion.
I want to be Dave, though.
Okay, so do we want to do? I guess the question is, do we want to do? How future-y do we want our future to be? Do we want to do like 50 years in the future? Do we want to do humanity explores the stars? Do we want to do like a civil war between the planets, like The Expanse? Do we want to do like what are we thinking?
Yeah, I need different factions of humanity. I don't know if they're based on different planets, but they need to be completely separate from countries. Probably, like, it could be corporation based, couldn't they? If it's cyberpunk, but
they could.
It could be like transhuman.
Oh, so the idea of, I like that. So splintered humanity. Maybe there's like artificial humans, natural humans, and then like augmented humans. Like there's that. It's like a biological differentiation. Well, we're going to talk more specifically about what's called the palette soon, in terms of what we 100% want in the game, what we don't. So let's just focus on our timeline. So what do we want to what's this period of history that we're sorting out? What is our one sentence descriptor?
What sent humanity finally to explore the stars ended up being something not very human at all.
Okay, so I like that as a theme, and we can work with like learning about that specifically. So the history here would be humanity fragments and leaves for the stars. Like, is our thing? Like this like fragmenting of humanity into multiple chunks? Because this way we can go as close to today as tomorrow. Right. And then as far forward as we want, because we don't know how long it's going to take to get there. So this way we can do near future and far future if we want to within the same timeline, because we're never going to put dates on this.
Talking about like how these events started to kick off, and then like how the events that started those events started to kick off. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea that like Dave was saying, like you were saying, there's people who are like pure human, people who are augmented human using the technology that developed to become like better but still human, and then people who are entirely like.
So is our big picture
AI.
then something like humanity fragments into multiple species, or like the fragmenting of humanity, something like that?
Like going from Neanderthal and Homo sapien.
Right.
Yeah. Like there's actual species divides, like Homo Siberius.
Homo robo
Robo sapiens.
Homo robo is definitely inspire some different thoughts.
Yeah, that's not. I'm not. Homo robo is a whole other. That's
I
a
mean,
different thing.
Great, but
All right.
Well, it's like there's two things. There's the human Homo sapiens sapiens, or whatever, the a little bit evolved humans, and then there's the separate species divide, like Homo nobilis or
Okay.
something.
There we go. So, what's the? I'm saying I was putting it here as humanity fragments into several species, but like maybe species isn't the word. Like I don't want to call it factions because that's like political.
I mean, but it could be a scientifically separated species
Okay, well,
divide. Like they can no longer breed together, so it's a different species.
Okay.
Like that is an actual thing.
Right. Okay. Sure.
It's actually just a divide of people who would fuck robots and not.
I mean, but like
What we're going to explore today on today's episode of Roll20's Microscope: who would have sex with a robot?
it's like mules, right?
Everyone, and then weird people.
Hi. Hello.
If you can't breed together and create fertile children, then you're two separate species.
Yeah. Sure. I'm into it.
Mules.
Okay.
That's the thing.
All right. So our big picture is humanity fragments into several species. This is the fragmenting of humanity. And that might mean physical, like fragmenting. It might mean philosophical. We have all kinds of things. But the idea here is that humans are one thing at one point, and then we hit them with a hammer, and they break into a bunch of different things. So we're going to be figuring out the hammer. So now we need to bookend our history. So history will be divided into periods. Each period is a very large chunk of time, probably decades or centuries. We're going to describe how our history begins and ends. These are the starting and ending periods and the bookends of our history. We're going to agree on a short description for each period, just a few sentences or a paragraph at most, painting a clear picture of what happens during that time. We're going to decide if each description is light or dark. This is the tone of the period. The tone of the starting and ending period don't have to match. You can describe either one first, as we prefer. Sometimes it's easier to pick light and dark and then see what happens. So we're going to need two of these guys. So two of the vertical cards. Here, let me move all of these bonus ones down here. There we go. Okay, so we need to bookend, and we need this is going to be the first thing and the last thing that happened in our timeline, and we're going to fill in the middle. So what do we think is the very first thing that what is our starting event? Yeah. Or what is our ending event? Does anybody have ideas that jump to mind right away?
If we're telling a story about humanity fragmenting into several species, it makes sense to me that the beginning of that is discovering that, it's the separation, right? Whenever
of the new thing.
Yeah. Because I feel like science is always behind in actually pinning down, like, okay, this is a thing. It's actually existed for a while, but we're going to say, like, from lots of studies, that's a real thing. And so the initial thing would be like in X-Men when people started developing mutations, right?
Well, so maybe the first thing that happens is a response to like a global epidemic. Maybe there's like some kind of horrible super flu that affects humanity, and maybe part of like what eventually splits us is our attempt to like solve that. Right? Maybe it's a crisis.
Like gene therapy vaccine.
Yeah. Does that sound like a good like first event?
Yeah, I like the idea of that catalyst rather than nailing down one specific divide, because we could probably have a bunch of them.
So like
I was originally thinking it would be like first sentient creature passes Turing test, or like first carbon-based life form passes Turing test or something. But I like that as a bit further on. It's gotta be something.
So this is a period of like plagues and
the zombie apocalypse was first, and then the robot apocalypse, and then the Shadowrun apocalypse.
So there's some kind of like horrific plague. Now, it sounds to me like this plague is a bad thing. It sounds like this is a bad time for humanity.
Yes.
Okay. We'll work on the individual details. Don't worry.
only if you have a limited retrogressive view of what humanity is.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We can have specific events within this that
Looking back, this perhaps was the best thing for humanity.
Exactly. All right, so I'm going to group all these things. This is one card now. Boop. There we go. So this is our first event. Okay, so Genoplague QX4b or whatever causes massive depopulation. A bunch of people get really sick and die because of this horrible thing. And then the end of our event this is when we know that it's happened. Humanity has fragmented. So is this like a political event where we're like, yes, we agree, humanity no longer exists. This is the death of humanity. And now there is these other subspecies or like replacement species. Or is it something else? Is it like, because there could be wars and stuff in the middle of this. There could be like whatever. But what is the event that closes the history book that we were writing?
Is it like an exodus? Like these
I don't feel like I want the exodus to close it off.
Yeah, I want it to be part of the thing, but
okay.
I think the closing would be, and like I don't want to be horrific about it, but either it's something optimistic, like some kind of peace talks between the disparate species, or it's like one of the species, like the Neanderthal.
No, it's not. It doesn't have to be a specific event, but it's like a period because we'll have events within it. So this could be like the Humanitas Accords or whatever, like the forming of the agreement that we're not all the same species anymore.
I would be excited about this being the last days of humanity. Like it's like the autumn or the winter of humanity. It's like when the last humans
like it
and like no longer like functional as an organism.
Yeah.
That's a great name for the period too. The winter of humanity. All right, now is this good? What's the tone? Is this a good winter or a bad winter?
Weirdly, let's give it a good tone.
I'm thinking. I think so too. Yeah. Is that? Dave, what do you think?
As a group, all of us can agree that the end of humanity is probably a good.
Yeah. Probably right. Playing this game with people of a somewhat nihilistic bent is dangerous business because you're like, all humans die, everything turns into dust. White dot. Okay.
Well,
it's like
my hope here is that humanity like takes that on in a noble way.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
In my head, it's now like the last like specimen jar of a human, and then it's like the end of Evangelion where everybody's having like a party and it's this like test tube and it's like slowly dying.
Yeah,
be super creepy.
All right,
I'm imagining the episode of Doctor Who where the Earth is dying and the very last human is just like a stretched bit of skin with a mouth, and like that's what humanity has come to.
Yeah. I mean, we'll figure all that out as we play, whether this is an episode of the Twilight Zone or, okay. So, or this is near Automata. Exactly. These are all available for us. So we figured out the beginning and the end of our history. We've bookended our history. Now we know how history begins and ends. We have no idea what happened in between. Finding out what happens in the middle, how history got from the reign of the Genoplagues to the winter of humanity, is what we do in the rest of the game. So Step 3 is we take a look back and we create our Histories Palette. The palette is a list of things the players agree to reserve the right to include or, conversely, outright ban. It gets everyone on the same page about what belongs in the history and what doesn't. We're going to make 2 columns. I've already started over here. We got a yes column and a no column. Each player can add one thing, either a yes or a no. Add something to the yes column if you think the other players would not expect it to be in the history, but you want to be able to include it. Add something to the no column if you think the other players would expect it to be in the history, but you don't want it included. Players can go in any order. You don't have to add something to the palette if you don't want to. If every player did add something, repeat step 1. Each player has the option to go again. If someone opted not to add something, stop. The palette is done. So we could theoretically have just one thing on the palette. If 2 people are like, meh, and one person's like, I have to have this. But if we all agree to add something, we could take another round and keep adding things.
So we're adding things that are present in our history?
Yeah, so here's where if I was like, ugh, I just don't want to tell another story about robots, I could be like, no robots.
Do we all have to agree that there's no robots?
No. that's explicitly not how this works. So it does say, feel free to discuss and negotiate. No one should be unhappy about what winds up being added or banned. So there is some like discussing, but no one else gets to have a say. Like it's, if I say hardline, like, nope, no space elves. And you're like, oh, but I really wanted space elves. And I'm like, nope, it's going to ruin my game for me. I don't want to do it. We come to a point where the game does not want us to compromise. The game expects us to make a decision. Either one of us will give in or we won't play if we're that hardline about it. But generally we can like talk about it. If something is added to the yes column, then during the rest of the game, it's okay to introduce it in the history, even if it doesn't seem like it fits. We've all agreed that that's where it belongs. It belongs in the game. If something is in the no column, it's never okay to bring it into the game, no matter what. You can't try to go around it. You can't be like, it's not a robot. He's a cybernetic android man.
It's an artificial human made out of machine parts.
Yeah, which is why it's clear. Now, even if something is in the yes column, it doesn't automatically just exist. It just means it is allowed to exist. That we are explicitly allowed to bring it in, but we don't have to. It may never go. So let's talk about it. Let's negotiate. Let's discuss. Let's put some palette stuff on.
In order.
Does anyone have anything that leaps to mind that they want to?
I have a thing that leaps to mind.
Hit it.
No fascists.
Like just none at all. So we can't even fight them. There's no struggling against them. Just fascism. No sci-fi fascists at all.
I'm sick of this shit.
Okay.
Too much of it. IRL. No fascists. Get the fuck out of here.
I'm into that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm into it. Okay. No. Here. It's I set all the fonts and stuff. So what's on the board already? If you want to copy and paste, it'll be easier. Copy and then paste it and rename it, because then everything stays the same size. It'll be easy for chat to.
No different fonts. Yeah. Is what Adam says.
Listen, I just want to make it look nice for the people watching at home. So.
Oh, I'm not a GM, so I can't. So why don't you?
Yeah, you are.
Wait, you're not.
You totally are.
I think you need to refresh the page.
Here, let me here. No fascists. Get out of here, you fascismos. So this means we can't even include them. They're not allowed to fight. They're not. We just can't have them, which is fine. I'm into it. Does anybody else have a yes or a no?
I have a yes.
What is your yes, Dave?
Technology that obsoletes all kinetic weaponry. Swords only in space. Lightsabers only in space.
Well, that's kind of the Dune thing, right? Where they have the personal shield generators.
Yeah.
So they fight with knives, right? Like.
So this is like what you're making here is a yes that makes a no. So let's talk. Let's talk about how to phrase this properly. Because I get what you're really saying is yes, swords.
Yes, swords.
So why don't you say yes, swords as a valid conflict element, right? Like something that you're allowed to include swords.
Yeah.
Okay. Some kind of like, and we can figure out that could be an interesting thing. Significant of melee conflict. Let's call it hand to hand, which is fine.
You could also just do no guns.
That's totally fine. But then you also have to be no missiles, no lasers. Like this, I feel like, Dave, does this cover what you're after?
Yes.
So you want to be allowed to be like, it makes sense for these guys to have a duel or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it can add things to the Okay, I like it. Okay. Blue Jay, do you have any stuff that you want to include?
I think that like it's hard having not even started. Like I understand the concept of this, but it's hard having not even started being like, I definitely want to have this specific conversation.
It doesn't have to be on the yes list for you. Like this, we don't have to put every conceivable thing. It just means that later, when Dave is like, the king of Humania challenges the robot lord to a sword fight, we're not allowed to be like, Dave, that's no, because they put it on the yes list. It's allowed.
No magic.
Yeah, fair. I was certainly not thinking of including it, but
I mean, it's just like, I don't want it to be like the I don't want it to be X-Men, and I don't want it to be like
well, it's
mutant bullshit. I don't want it to be. I want it to be very science focused and not they just have
okay. So can we talk a little bit about shit like quantum dot technology and like how what is it? Is it Asimov or Clark? How sufficiently advanced do we want to get with this? Because can I be like, cool, there's no magic, but she has wings made out of quantum fields that allow her to fly. Like,
I mean, it's like if it's technology, if it's something that someone made, I feel like if we're talking about the separation of, because what we were saying is going like humans and like some kind of AI android, ghost in the shell, human. I feel like incorporating like the robots all have wings and they can shoot lasers. I don't know if that's, I want them to be just as human is what I'm saying, I think.
Well, so that's very different. So when you say magic, do you mean like no supernatural stuff? Like
maybe? Yeah.
Because there is, again, like if we go quite far future with it, like you can do that thing where you're like, no magic, but we're using scientific stuff.
Technology is effectively magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's less flavor and more like no superpowers.
I mean, yeah, I'm not entirely like, I don't know.
Well, no, it's interesting, and that's what I want to like. I mean, we're playing the game right now. We're having an interesting conversation about fiction. So when you say like, I want to get at what you mean, because I think I'm starting to kind of like feel around this thorn that you have. So is it that you don't want, like, when we bring stuff into the game, do you want us to justify it with science? Because we're not actually scientists. So like,
well, I understand that. I want things to be more tangible and not a giant flaming sword robot war, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I
so
feel
what you're
like
saying saying no to is anime bullshit.
Yeah. I don't know. I just
listen, Dave. It doesn't all have to be anime bullshit. All right.
You can have sword fights that are like tough and realistic and
so
like
maybe instead of
hard, boring. Okay.
Listen. It doesn't, all right. No, like over the top anime style sci-fi, right? Like you want it to be grounded in like a sense of realism.
And this is the thing. It's the like aesthetic of realism, right? Because it's still. We're still making stuff up. There's still going to be technology,
obviously,
and all this kind of stuff. But to keep it within that,
I mean, I think that's a reasonable no, right? To just say like you want to keep it fairly serious and not a lot of like, you can still have giant robots, right? But they just can't be like.
You can definitely have giant robots.
They're going to be more armored core than Gundam Wing.
Yes, that's fine. That's totally fine. I have one that I would like to add. I have a no. Because I think the no is important. Yes, like we're realizing there's ways to angle around this. So my no is no fucking aliens. Get out of here. No aliens.
No aliens.
No aliens at all.
Perfect.
I'm not interested. Not interested in aliens.
Okay, but Adam, can there be sexy fishmen?
If we genetically engineer a form of humanity that's sexy fishmen, sure. But I don't want like bumpy forehead fucking like.
Okay, no Klingons.
No, yeah, I mean, I don't even want like gelatinous intelligent super spheres. I just want humans, because that's what this is about, right? It'll ruin it if we make it like about aliens. So no actual aliens, no fascist alien anime bullshit. Okay, all right. So we all included one, so we can do another round. Does anyone have more things they would like to include?
Yes.
What would you like to add, Dave? A yes or a no?
I want to put for yes. I want to put. I mean, it's a theme that we're probably going to have anyway, but I want to establish that we're definitely going to have it. Talking about transhuman rights and like what actually defines being a human. I want to talk about.
Whoa, just got really significant. Okay, yeah, go for it. Yeah, just copy and paste one of those in there. So, like, you want like the philosophy of what it means to be human, to be explicitly a part of the game. Totally.
Yes,
I'm into it. Okay, hand-to-hand conflict is very significant. We get it, everybody. Okay, well, I'll let you guys write that biz out. Andrew or Blue Jay, do either of you have another yes or no?
I'm working on a yes.
Oh, okay.
Which is why there's an extra thing in there.
Okay.
So you try and type it out. But I'm gonna need a minute to like think on it.
I want I guess I would like to see this be more than like a 2-participant conflict. I mean, the big picture is several, but I would like to see us not just be like, these are humans and these are AI and that's all there is. I think that the variation would be a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That sounds good. How do you wanna phrase that? So like no, like us v them, like clear, like 2-party divide.
Maybe no 2-party divide.
Okay. So maybe yes to like. How do you want to phrase this?
I think that like very specifically, I don't want it to be an us versus them conflict.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no us or them, but
I
yeah,
know, but like not like we're playing one side and they are playing the other side, but I don't want it to be just like a.
How about that?
Like the conflict itself, even for the people involved in it, is kind of muddy and
yes.
How does that look?
The lines are unclear.
Yeah, that's good. That's
okay.
fine.
I know what a Gibsonian uneven distribution of the future is, but for
I can explain.
hit it out there for the cheap seats.
And so William Gibson is famous for having said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So like the wealthy or the powerful or the people who live in the right country or whatever will have like things that would be cool sci-fi shit to other people living somewhere else or in a different social class or whatever. So part of what makes this whole thing dystopian is that there is a huge disparity, like a technology gap in the way that there is like a wealth gap or stuff like that.
Yeah. So the rich superhumans living on Luna 2 have technology that the people that still live in the slummy cracks of Earth would consider to be like sci-fi. Yeah, totally uneven distribution. I like it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Do I have anything that I like definitely want in or not in? Oh, I have a no that I would like to include. I'm gonna nail this one down, and we can discuss this. But get the hell out of here! Faster than light travel. Go away. You're not allowed.
I mean, I would also almost like to just contain it within one solar system.
Well, I mean, no fast and light travel does that. That was part of that intent. Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
You're like putting everyone to sleep and shipping them off, never expecting to see them again.
I mean, even if you're just going at light travel, you could get to Alpha Centauri in like 4 years or something.
Sure. I mean, that's fine. But like, we'll see how big the game is. But
yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cool. Okay. So we all included something this round. Round 2 or round 3, I guess. Does anybody have any more stuff they want to add or not add? I don't have anything for this round. So this will be the last round.
I had a hard time with the first 2.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to. Like the point is just if there is nothing, then you're good. We move on. It's not an exhaustive list, right? Like if something fits, you probably don't have to add it to the yes column. Like if we were doing a fantasy adventure and someone was like, we see a wizard. then no one would be like, what? A wizard? You didn't put wizards on the yes column.
I have a no.
Ooh, all right.
And I think I want no fundamental scarcity that drives it. I don't want there to be like a resource thing. I want there to be unobtainium, like in Avatar or some shit.
Right.
I don't want
Okay.
Just get the
overcrowding that forces people out of it. I want it to be ideological.
Okay. Right. So this isn't like there's no more water. We have to fight over about it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Dig it. Dig it. So this is that. Yeah, exactly. Nadja points out it takes us out of Dune because Dune is that thing. Dune is like it's about Arrakis. It's about the spice. But this isn't about one thing. It's about a lot of things and ideology. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Blue Jay or Andrew, do either of you have items for
Yeah,
this?
good.
Good? Blue Jay? Good? All right. Cool. All right. So that is our palette. Group decisions are now over. For the rest of the game, each player makes decisions individually and has vast power to shape history. Each player now gets to add more detail to the history, creating either a new period or an event. Players can go in whatever order they want. To add a period, you place it between any two adjacent periods. So periods are the up and down card, the vertically aligned card.
Mm-hmm.
You can move these ones that are on here already. I didn't get the text, but these are we're gonna make these one. They'll be one item, so you can move them around once that's done. And then you'll be able to place new content in the middle of them. So you can add a new period, or you can add an event. An event is a specific thing that happens inside a period. So the reign of the Genoplagues. I'm really digging how the text is moving around inside this card. Look at it go.
Yeah, I just noticed that. It does weird things.
There we go. So with that one, an event is a specific thing that happens inside the period. So we could say these are the horizontal cards. So you'll place these underneath. So we would go like copy and paste them.
Can I place an event that maybe like doesn't necessarily fit with either period? Do I have to do a period first?
You'd have to make a period for it.
God, what's happening with the Genoplagues?
The Genoplagues they're going crazy. I think I broke that one.
The Genoplagues are spreading.
I'm not, let me rebuild that.
What
shit.
else would they do?
Yeah.
It does weird stuff when the text is grouped. It wants to like snap it to a grid or something.
Oh,
Weird.
now the Winter of Humanity is fucked up too.
Okay, let me rebuild these.
I mean, the Winter of Humanity probably is pretty.
It's pretty fucked. Even though we decided that it was light. Here, let me turn the grid off. That'll probably help us.
I mean, aliens all along.
Okay. So this was one of these. And then I need, so we can do periods or events. And if you want to make an event that happens, there has to be a period for it to occur in.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we'll do our first pass and we'll set those up. So we've declared the focus. We made the history after we've all, here we go. Overview of play. I see. Okay. So the first pass isn't the full game. We're going to do more detailed stuff, but basically this is our first turn to start adding these things in. Cool. Okay. Weird. I can't move that dot. Give me a second here.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not. I'm not okay. I'm fine, but humanity is screwed.
I mean, we knew that. So does this have to go in any sort of order or?
No, we'll get to basically in this one. Y'all can just decide who wants to go when. For this one, we'll go in order for the next one.
I have an event that I want to do, but I need to figure out what period it would go under, what that would be called in order to place the event. So the event that I want to do is
so you can't if you have an idea. This is part of the trick.
Your help.
This is the part of the trick of play. So if you have an event that you want, but there's no period for it, either someone else needs to make the period or you do.
Well, I mean, like I was going to make the period first and then next time I do the event, but I was wanting your help brainstorming what the period should be. Or am I not allowed?
I'll trade you. I'll make the period so you can do the event if you get rid of the no anime bullshit.
No,
Get out of here.
We're done with that
That
part.
part's over.
In fact,
Oh,
y'all, like, the game is pretty explicit about how
Yeah,
there are no more group
I'm
decisions
kidding.
anymore, and how we have to
Yeah.
individually do things, which is like a pressure, certainly. And I mean, it doesn't eliminate discussion entirely, but the idea is that we're meant to,
Mm.
dig deep and draw on our creative energy that we all know is there.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, we can discuss stuff as we go, but part of it is just deciding.
So am I getting no Boujay? Think of this your goddamn self. Or
no, I mean you can
yes, let's
ask
have
us
this
about it,
conversation?
but like it's ultimately your call to like do the thing, right?
I mean, that's fine. I want my event that I'm needing a period for to be that scientists declare the specific species fragments, like they say, like, yes, we've done all this study. Here is a paper very specifically stating that these are separate species. Like, that's the event.
Okay, I mean that event takes place in the winter of humanity. You can just drop that event now.
But I feel like that is like scientists saying that doesn't necessarily mean that popular culture or the people
Right, but
those
that could be an early event, and then later everyone else is like, yes, that's true.
But we made the point that the winter of humanity is there's not very many humans left. They're actually dying.
We don't know that yet. All we know is that it's the winter of humanity. Winter it can be long, right? It could be
The scope of that period could be defined by you placing this in it. Or if you want to make a different period for it, it could be some other thing, like a period of like peace and study or something, like the calm before the storm or the...
Well, yeah, that's the thing. The thing that I was thinking of in terms of context for this like statement is that it created rebuttal, right?
Mm-hmm.
People didn't just say like, oh yeah, you're right. That's fine. Like there's some kind of conflict that occurs to either instigate this or after this statement. Not like, I mean, I guess it could fit in the winter, but yeah. I thought the winter was the very last thing that we did.
Well, I mean, it's the last period, but there's events within that period, right? So the start of the winter and the end of the winter. Winter is this long thing. This could be several hundred years long, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have that option.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yeah, like either choice is valid, right?
Yeah, they both sound fine.
Make a separate period in which this happens, or if you want to tie it to...
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
I have a thought has occurred to me for a period, Blue Jay,
Okay.
Which I can throw down, which is the classification wars.
There you go.
And it's just like a period in which like people are just straight up like engaged in some kind of conflict around the ordering of the species that...
Yeah, and
that
if one
has
is
tried to like legislate it or something, there's some kind of
like whether or not they should be allowed to live together, etc. Like there's a
some
big
weird thing going on that causes a like civil disturbance. You know, maybe it's not a war, maybe it's a police action, but
Okay.
So I'm gonna make this first period.
What is happening?
Here, I'm gonna do this we're gonna do this a different way because I'm instead of writing on top of the card, let's do it this way. I'm gonna make little squares. So we'll go like this. I have a better plan. I've come up with a smarter idea.
Okay. It's gonna be wonky, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It wasn't behaving. So what we can do is we'll just do it like this. We'll do little ones. And then we can write on top of, like above them instead of on them.
Okay.
Okay, and so how much is this? 4 by, what did I do? 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. There we go. Okay. So drawing on top of the thing I'm trying to draw. Give me a second. All right.
Sorry.
Cool. Okay. So these are our copies, and then I'll make the little dots. So what are you doing for your what did you want to call it? The
classification wars.
Right. Yes. Awesome. Okay. So
it's a dark time.
Mm-hmm. The great taxonomy. I like it. Okay.
Right, yeah, like it's a war over taxonomy, or like a conflict around taxonomy.
I like it. I think it's terrifying, but I'm into it.
And it's like shit ain't funny when someone's trying to like declassify you out of humanity, right? Like,
well, and a big part of that too will be setting up events within it, like that like humans get moved around based on what kind of human they supposedly are, that kind of thing.
Some ghettos like in the California for the Japanese people.
Yeah, totally.
That shit's fucked up.
Okay. All right. So this way, let's do it like this. So we'll go, here's our starting event, and then we'll go card text, and just above it, we'll put like this, Reign of the Genoplagues, and that can go here. And then I'll just copy, and we decided this was bad. This is a bad guy.
Don't we have to, before we start making the scenes, work out the focus of the round?
That happens after. This is like a weird cheater round.
Okay.
Where we just fill in a couple more of these things. Hey,
okay, cool.
Okay. All right. So the Genoplagues, here's our event here. So this is our first one. There we go. I got it fixed now. And I can copy this, paste it, and we'll call this was the Winter of Humanity. Okay. And this one was a good one. Okay. Sorry, guys. There we go. Got it figured out. Okay. So, for this one, is this, I mean, I think I know already, but is your idea for the event, is this a good event or a bad event?
This is going to be a bad event. I think I am going to make a copy of this left-hand thing. I wonder if I can just copy the whole thing. Let me try.
Yeah, you can try it out.
And then paste. Boom. With separate text and everything. Okay, cool.
Okay. So yeah, you can get it set up, and then I'll move the cards around, because if we're all trying to move stuff, it's not going to work.
Yeah. There we go. It's all set up.
Okay, great. So that's yours. Dave or Blue Jay, do you have?
I mean, I think that the event I was talking about fits under the classification wars.
Okay. All right.
Like, so.
Okay, let me spread these out a little bit. And so now for an event, you want to do, what do you want to call your event?
It's the classification of separate species.
Okay.
Separate, like, human next species.
So why don't you be more specific? Like, who does it? Who's involved? What's the, like, how does this happen? So like
there is a meeting of the great scientific minds of the Federation of Planets.
Get out of here.
And hey, it's a federation involving several planets. That's all. And they declare, after so much study, that these separate sects of humanity are actually classified as different species.
Okay.
A Nobel is awarded. That's a good addition, Nadja. Thank you.
So Scientific Conclave declares species classification. Does that sound like it covers it? Okay. Is this a good thing or bad thing? Is this not good or bad, but like, is the tone bright or dark?
The tone is bright. I think that they're...
Yeah, that's what kicks all this shit off, right? It's
Yeah.
this hopeful thing.
It's definitely like, this is science and it's not judgment, right? The judgment comes after.
Isn't this diversity of life fascinating? And then everyone else is like,
But now you're giving me a reason to judge these people as not people.
Which one of those four classes is human?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Which one's the real humans? Okay. All right. Dave, do you have a period or an event that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I want a period of artificially created human like societal integration. And I think that goes after the genoplagues, but before the classification wars.
Okay. All right. What do you want to call your period?
I want to call it. How would people phrase it? Because it's like not non-biological. Because we said there are going to be a bunch of different ways people come at this. How could you politically correctly term like non-natural?
It could be named for an event or a discovery or a person in the way that one of the things I really like from Ghost in the Shell is that their like radiation cleansing thing is just called the Japanese miracle. Like it just has like a name like that. Like there could be this particular event or person or something that stands symbolically for this, or like the such and such.
But this is a period. So give me the phrase again, Dave. How did you summarize this?
Artificial human societal integration period.
So the integration of biological and artificial humans.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So this is a time when humans and bio and non-bio humans are like getting integrated. They're becoming one society. So what
integrated also means they're integrating,
yeah.
Right?
So is this good or bad? Light or dark? What do we think?
I think it's light because there's still potential there, and I think it goes dark when they decide that they don't want to integrate properly.
Okay, cool. We can figure that out.
Going well.
Okay, all right. And so there's the scientific conclave. There we go. All right, so I got to do one now. Okay. I am going to include. So I'm going to do an event, and it's going to be not a good one. It's going to be a bad times event.
Yay!
And I'm including it under the integration of artificial and biological humans. And I think, let's see here. I think I'm going to call it, let's see, artificial, let's see, it's an event, so let's see here, something about like, one side or the other having like military action against them, being like, no, this is bad, we don't want this. So let's call this one,
was there a specific...
I want this to be the opposite of the way sci-fi usually does this, where they're like, oh, the biological humans are like boo to the artificials. I want this to be like the artificial humans are like, no, you're done. Your period
Maybe
is
it's
over.
because biological humanity is more susceptible to plague and disease. It was right after the genoplagues.
Yeah.
So we have to contain them. They were quarantined.
Yeah, it could totally be like them rioting to try and break quarantine, like try and get back free pass. And
we're going to call it the violent purging of biohumans.
Also, remember that one of our no's is an us versus them.
Yeah.
Like clear binary conflict. So.
I mean, I feel like, yeah, there could be, and I like you went before me, obviously, Andrew. So you would get. I think we're going in order now.
Not yet.
But I feel like the integration of bio and artificial humans, that era could very well include the divergence of that binary, right?
Yeah, this is where things get complicated because there are people who are like,
yeah, they're partially one thing and partially.
Yeah, and the thing is too is like this is just a bad thing happens to biological humans. I'm not saying it happens because one group attacks another. It's like everyone who's not biologically human pile on them and tries to get rid of them. Like they made us sick in the first place. Let's get rid of them.
It's probably not always going to be like base humans, robot humans, and like that. This is probably all like artificial ones versus
exactly. This is
any that like started as biological organisms or like forced evolved ones or like weird mutants.
This is essentially not us versus them. It's like the crappy leftovers get violently purged during the integration. Because this integration may end with peace, right? We're going to all keep inserting events and scenes into this stuff. Everybody bullying the biohumans. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I just wanted...
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool. Well, let's we've completed the first pass, right? We've all gotten to add in a new aspect here, another section. So now we're gonna go into playing the game. We'll do the overview of play, and we'll start doing the actual like turn by turn stuff when we get back from our first break. So let's do that, and we'll be right back with more Microscope. Don't go anywhere.